Hi there. Today's goal is to fill the holes in the side of this panel so that we can mount it. And it seemed the only way I could do that easily is to 3D print some covers, if you will. So the way these work, I'll show the model up close in the software. It's probably kind of hard to see being black, but these basically have little ridges on the sides, and they snap right in. And then you put your filter material inside of this cup, snap that on, just like that. So one of the good features about this is you can put pretty much any kind of filtering material in here that you'd like. I happen to have some old is an air duct filter. So basically I've just been cutting off a little bit, doubling it up, and installing it. So the installation is pretty simple. Basically they just snap right in, and you can see that's very tight. It's just not going anywhere. So here's our filter material, all cleaned up with scissors. And essentially you just drop it right in there, and you can imagine you could put anything in here. Again, this is what I have. Snap it on. There you go. Just like that. So whether these caps will stay on for, you know, a week, month, a year, I don't know. They seem pretty snug. If they don't, then we'll just modify the model, print some more, and just go with it. So I'm going to go all the way around with this process and call it good. Real quick, just to give you an idea of the process for designing and printing something with a 3D printer, this was my original, or my first prototype. The idea was to take full advantage of this hole, even with these tabs, but that was a bit optimistic, especially with a 3D printer. So then I went without the tabs, which actually kind of worked. They gave me a rough idea of where to start and something to build from. I originally was going to have a hood over this, and you can see that didn't go well, but I didn't really like it anyway. Plus there was no way to get a filter into it. And then it just gradually went from there. I just got my correct size, which I think is this one. Nope. You can see this one's too small. And that's kind of how it goes. You just keep iterating until the print comes out the way you want it to. With a 3D printer, you might get it within 0.2 mil is my experience, 0.2 millimeter. Sometimes worse, depends, especially if it's printing on the bed like this. You can kind of feel the ridges where the plastic smeared out. Some people use what's called the raft to fix that problem. I'm not a fan of those. But basically we just kept on going until it fit. This one has no ridges. You can see where I marked to figure out where to put the ridges. It just kind of, you know, it'll fall right out. And then you just keep going on and on. Here's another example of the 0.2 millimeter deal. You can't really see, but if I snap this together, you can see it's got that warp because they were printed the same dimension, and they're not going to come out that way. You'll see in the model when I show you that I actually ended up raising this a couple mil, and you can see that's a much better fit. So that's all there is to that. Okay, just a quick video on how I created the model for the vents. I guess I'll start with the actual package to make your model. I did start off with Fusion 360 and 123D, I believe it's called. Those are pretty slick packages, but I find often just to do the simplest thing, like align objects or whatever, it's just difficult. Their approach is to kind of dumb it down a little, or I should say hide complexity from you. And not to mention it's cloud software, so I just can't deal with that. So I grabbed FreeCAD. I spent about 30 minutes with it. And after about 30 minutes, I just walked away thinking, what the hell did I just look at? It really didn't click at all. So a couple days later, I came back and did one of these tuts here. So after about 20 minutes with the tutorial, I learned everything I needed to make what I had to make. How they lay it out is with all these different views. So you got your sketching and your drafting and your modeling. Works pretty good. Anyway, so it usually starts off with a sketch. Just about any package. And as you can see, it doesn't even have to be a good one. You can see I got a lot of, like this curve's out of control over here. It's not symmetrical, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, you'd like it to be. In fact, I could probably fix that and it would reflect in the final model. But this one works fine, so I'm not going to mess with it. So on the left, you can see all of you're basically just piling operations on top of each other until you get what you want. So here's the original sketch we were just looking at. And then down here, here's the base of it. So if we go and look at it, here's our first sketch that's been extruded. Here's our second sketch. And then obviously you need a hole. So then you would just do a pocket operation like that. And you just go straight down until you get where you need. It's really quite, okay, here's the sketch for the nub. See if I can get a picture of that. There you go. So that's what keeps it, that's what locks it into the case. The actual metal on the case is right here. So it gets wedged between these two, and that's what's holding that into the case. So for the top half that snaps on, we just make ourselves another body. And again, another sketch. That's the side view, which you'll see in a second. So here's the second part. Same operation as the other one. It's pretty straightforward. You just keep it simple and just go through it step by step. And I kind of like this software because that's kind of how I think. So everything over here on the left makes a lot of sense to me as far as the order in which they happen. So when you're done, you just convert these bodies to a mesh, and this is what you actually export for the printing. I think it's let's take a look here. So you got to go into the mesh workspace, and I think it's export. Yeah, so it's got STL right there. So these get sucked directly into, actually let me open up, I'll open this in the printing software so you can get a good look at it. Okay, we have our models loaded into our 3D printing software. And these are the two meshes that we were looking at earlier. And in the video of me installing these, you can see me cutting this. See if I can zoom in there. But you can see me cutting these corners off of this little nub. That's because it wouldn't fit in the hole. I should have did that during the modeling, but I just ended up cutting those like right about here with the razor blade to knock off that corner. Seemed to do the trick. Usually how these things go is by the time you nail it down, you don't have to do it anymore, so that's okay. And if we go ahead and look at the print, so we got 35 layers in this particular print, and if we take it all the way down, you can kind of see each layer being built. That's the infill. That's the stuff it fills in the middle. And if we zoom right in on that, so we can get in. So that's actually what's going on, just one layer at a time. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this part of the design and printing. If you'd like to see something simple, made from scratch, just throw a note in the comments. I'll see if I can do that for you. But yeah, that's it. Here we are. Everything's mounted, working properly. Can't complain about that. Here's our filters. I'm using medical gauze. That actually worked out pretty well. Pretty happy with that. Cable management is underway. Should be done with that soon. And we now have 220 for our VFD. And this is the power cable. That's going to go to the spindle. And we have a VFD all wired up. Powers up nicely. We're still working on the spindle over there. Here's something I didn't show in the modeling video. This is something I needed for cable management. Here's your profile right there. And basically it's got a tunnel in it for this wire tie. And they snap right on to the cable tray like that. They even have a little give. So pretty happy with those. So I'm going to call this a wrap for this video. Next we need to install these braces. I'll explain that later. And hopefully we can finally get to squaring that gantry. That's been bothering me. Soon.